Testing, testing. 2022, and the time is 7:30 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, I'd like to ask everyone to join me in a moment of silence for those who lost their lives recently in Colorado Springs. All right, thank you. I'd also like to make a statement as the mayor. Again, I'm speaking on my own behalf and not on behalf of council. Thank you. Tonight, my heart goes out to all of our fellow Coloradans who have been impacted by the recent deadly attack at Club Q in Colorado Springs. These hate-fueled, violent acts have become too common in our country. As a nation, we strive to build communities where no one is made to feel unsafe going to school, a movie theater, or spaces of community. Our nation is founded on the idea of freedom and equality for all people. I question if we can really be free if so many of our citizens are living in fear to simply be themselves. I hope as our state and nation moves forward from this tragedy, we can come together to heal our divisions, accept our differences, and promote safe communities for all. All right, we'll move on to the roll call. Linda?
Yazzie.
Here.
Kiefhoffer.
Here.
Dobry.
Here.
Spruill.
Here.
DeHaven.
Here.
Rainey.
Here.
Medina.
Here. All right, note that we have a quorum tonight. Everyone is with us. Do we have an approval of the agenda, or would anyone like to change anything or add on our agenda? I just ask for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
A motion made by Dobry, seconded by Kiefhoffer.
Rainey.
Aye.
Kiefhoffer.
Aye.
Yazzie.
Aye.
DeHaven.
Aye.
Spruill.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, we'll move on to item number 2 on the agenda, the consent agenda. The listing under consent agenda is a group of items to be acted on with a single motion and vote. This agenda is designed to expedite the handling of limited routine matters by City Council. Either the public or a council member may request that an item may be removed from the consent agenda at this time, prior to council's vote. Would any citizens or council members like to pull anything out of the consent agenda? No? Okay. Consent agenda item A, approval of the council agenda minutes for November 8th, 2022. B, approval of the expenditure list for November 22nd, 2022. And C, approval of a renewal fermented malt beverage liquor license and change of manager application for Walmart store number 0966, located at 1835 East Main Street, Cortez.
I make a motion that the council approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Rainey and seconded by DeHaven.
Dobry.
Aye.
Yazzie.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
Spruill. DeHaven.
Aye.
Kiefhoffer.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, we'll move on to public participation. There's no limit to the number of speakers, although public comment will be held to an overall time limit of 30 minutes. Speakers have a time limit of 3 minutes per person, may only speak once, and may not cede time to another commenter. If you're here to make public comment, we have comment cards, and if it's for a specific item on our agenda, we'll wait until that item's on the agenda. No comments? All right, quick night. Okay, we'll move on to presentations. Number 4 on our agenda. 4A is an update from our municipal judge, Beth Padilla.
Good evening. I have some updates for all of you just about things that have been happening in the court and would welcome any questions that you may have. A few weeks ago, actually 2 weeks ago, I attended the Colorado Municipal Judges Association Conference in Glenwood Springs, and the head of the clerk, Carla Odell, also attended with me. I would say there were probably 200 judges and court staff throughout the state that attended the 3-day conference. We learned quite a few things, and I'll keep it brief. Specifically as it relates to changes in our court, I actually first learned about this in April when I went to the last conference, but we are now specifically asking any individual charged with a traffic violation whether they hold a CDL license, because the federal law does prohibit us from doing a deferred or a diversion for any of those individuals. And so that's been a pretty drastic change in our courtroom. That is the law, but I don't think that's necessarily something that had been implemented in the past. And so it's essentially a federal prohibition against masking. So if you're charged with speeding, you can't negotiate with the city attorney some sort of lesser offense. And that's to essentially ensure that truck drivers are not receiving numerous traffic violations in different states and communities, and they're not being reported. So that is a change that we've already made. We also learned that we need to be advising in our set advisement on our criminal docket that there are veteran services available to individuals that have participated in the military, and so that will be a change that I'll make to let them know that there are services available to them. I also learned about some specialty courts that some communities are implementing, one of which of interest to me is a court specifically to address homelessness. And so I don't know a lot about it yet, so I'm learning more through the American Bar Association about potentially how it might be helpful in our district in a way that really looks is that you could have individuals that are experiencing homelessness on the docket at a different time and have social workers or community partners available to try to assist some of their basic needs. So it's something I'm just getting more information about at this time, but I'm excited about. There's also been some changes in the law about sealing cases and sealing juvenile cases. Ms. Odell received a lot of updated information about how other courts are handling that. So the conference was very beneficial. I also obtained a copy of the Bench Book, which is a resource put out by the CMJA every few years. And so it's basically a crash course in all the things that we need to do in order to make the court operate. So I certainly thank council and the city for allowing us to go to that conference. It's incredibly beneficial. I was able to make quite a few connections with other judges, and Ms. Odell was able to make connections with other clerks and head of court in other communities so that we have individuals to reach out to when we run into issues. Other updates for the court, I am continuing to order substance abuse evaluations for individuals that present with a factual basis that they have used drugs or alcohol when they're being arrested. Most people are doing the evaluations. I don't know the numbers, but very few people are coming to court and not doing them at all. I will let you know that the first defendant came to court this month indicating he could not pay for it. Based upon that representation, I did not order him to do a substance abuse evaluation because I don't have funding yet. I'm hoping I will get funding. But we are not ordering anyone to do a substance abuse evaluation if they can't pay for it or they don't have access to Medicaid insurance or Indian Health Services. So we're not punishing people for that. In the last few months, there have been some speed checks through law enforcement. Ms. Odell tells me we've had about 150 tickets. Some of those people have come to court because they want to negotiate perhaps a deferred or they have a CDL, and we have to address that. So that has kept the court relatively busy. I was recently contacted by the chief of police from a neighboring community who had spoken with Chief Knuckles. He essentially had heard that we're doing really good things in our community, and he wanted to know what we're doing differently, what changes have been made in our court. And so I just provided some information to him. I'll let you know that Ms. Odell really is, she makes this work. So to give you an idea of how the court is structured, Monday mornings we have a docket at 9 a.m. And then if anyone is arrested during the week, we have hearings on Wednesdays and Fridays. They're not at set times because we're a part-time court. So anytime someone's arrested, Ms. Odell is on the phone with the city attorney to see when he's available, with defense counsel to see when they're available, and myself to coordinate getting individuals into court as soon as possible. If someone is in custody, they are provided with a public defender, and that's paid through the city. We have 3 individuals working through alternate defense counsel providing defense services. A lot of cities near us don't have that. They don't have cooperation from the Bar Association, and they don't have attorneys willing to take those cases, and we do. We're also paying our attorneys a more competitive rate than some of our neighboring communities. I will tell you, they're still paid probably about a third of what their normal hourly rate is, but we're doing better in a lot of ways than some of our nearby communities. We are working with alternate defense counsel to oversee the defense attorneys to make sure they receive appropriate training, and it's essentially to ensure that defendants are receiving attorneys that know what they're doing. I do believe that in the budget, and I apologize, I don't know if the budget's been approved or not. I'm not in the inner workings like you all are. I'm getting a thumbs up. So there is a pay increase, and that is consistent with what's happening at the state level. So essentially, attorneys that are taking court-appointed work are going to be paid the same in municipal court as they are in county court or in district court. And that's incredibly important because we have very few attorneys in our community, and if we're not paying them competitively, we will not have defense attorneys, which will limit our ability to have a functioning court. A couple updates moving forward. Effective January 1st, we're going to start doing probation, which is in the code. It's always been in the code, but it'll be unsupervised probation, and it's essentially a way for me to order individuals that are being sentenced to do useful public service or community service. It'll be a condition of their unsupervised probation. I've worked with the city, and I'm very appreciative of all the work from HR as well as Mr. Sanders, who's not here today, to come up with a plan to ensure that individuals can do public service and not have too much liability on the city's behalf. So that change will go into effect in January. In December, I am meeting with defense attorneys, the city attorney, as well as court staff to update them on that proposed change, as well as get feedback from them. Because truly, without our attorneys, our court can't function. And so I want to make sure that we're holding court at a time and in a way that works for their schedules. Something as simple as starting a docket at 8:30 if someone has to drop their child off at 8:30 means that attorney's not willing to take cases anymore. So I just need to know that. So we will have that meeting in December, sort of a shareholder meeting to make sure that I'm in the loop as to what concerns they have. Finally, I have spoken with the city attorney about a couple potential changes to the code. None are drafted yet, but to give you a heads up. One is the intoxicated pedestrian in a roadway. It's a Class B traffic infraction, and realistically what I'm seeing in the courtroom is individuals that are making contact with law enforcement because they're typically unconscious in the road with BACs in the 0.4 range. So really unsafe situation, and so just want to make sure that law enforcement have the tools that they need in order to ensure public safety and the defendant's safety, and that we're able to ensure that they're being charged with the appropriate violation. Also, from our training that Ms. Odell and I went to with the CMJA, we do have some questions about the fines associated with handicap parking. Maybe they need to be higher according to a state statute. So I've asked Mr. Coleman to maybe look into that and see if we're good there. And then we may also look into a potential change in our parking tickets. The fine is, I think, $8, which is pretty low. So that's something Ms. Odell and I have been discussing. So that's a lot of information. Those are some of the things that are happening in the court. Do any of you have any questions, concerns?
As you get, I guess, dive into the homelessness topic, the Pinion Project is overseeing a project called Built for Zero. It's kind of this program they're doing for the chronically homeless, where I think the first step is getting to know all of them personally, so they know all the names of the people out there, and just some background information on them, so that they know if someone's missing, or so that might be a good resource to help, people who need to come to court. And then the other one is the street medicine that comes on Tuesdays.
I am familiar with that program. I haven't heard it called street medicine, but I know what you're talking about, where I think some of the tribal communities are coming and providing outreach. So I am aware of those. I'm not exactly sure how a homeless court would work or if it would even be a good fit in our community. I'm just intrigued that there are courts that are specifically trying to address that issue. And so I appreciate those recommendations, and we'll certainly reach out.
Great. Thank you, Beth. Yeah. Well, what you're doing is really awesome, and we appreciate you and Carla, just making that a great department here.
Thank you.
I'll just add a little bit to the Built for Zero. They meet weekly, and they do what's called a by name wait list. So they do they reach out to all the different entities, and they do kind of like case conferencing, I think is what it is, but to figure out how to best support those experiencing homelessness. Lucia Bueno Valdez is going to be the point of contact at the Pinion Project.
I know her, so I will certainly reach out. Thank you. Anything else?
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Beth.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to 5 public hearings on our agenda. So 5A is the Champion Express Car Wash, and the applicant has requested that this item be withdrawn from consideration by council, and therefore no further action will be taken regarding this application. Okay, so we're going to move on to 5B. Ordinance number 1303, Series 2022, amendment to the City of Cortez Land Use Code regarding accessory dwelling units. Nancy Dawson.
Good evening. This is the second reading and actual public hearing on the accessory dwelling unit code amendment. I think we've all heard it a lot of times, so I'm going to be really brief on what's on here, and then we can open it up if there's any public. I think we have at least one in favor person here. But very brief background, the city does currently regulate accessory dwelling units to the point where it's difficult to build one anywhere. Based on comments we've heard from individuals wanting to put a dwelling unit, accessory dwelling unit on their property and not being able to due to one current regulation or another, staff worked with the Planning Commission to develop some revisions that make it easier to do an accessory dwelling unit. And accessory dwelling unit, also known as mother-in-law apartment or small units. It can either be detached, say in a backyard, or a portion of an existing home converted to a small apartment. So the revisions that we made expanded the residential zones that people are allowed to apply for an ADU permit in. It removes some of the requirements for a larger than normal lot. It takes away some of the other issue with a percentage of the existing home, limiting the size of the unit. So what we have in front of you is a proposal to revise the code. I'm not going to go over all of it in detail, but I am here if you have any questions.
Any council discussion before I open it up for public comment? Okay, I'll open this hearing up for public comment. If anyone in the public would like to comment, please state your name and address. All right, seeing none, we'll close this public comment section. And I do want to note, since our first reading, we have had someone submit a comment electronically, and they are in favor of these changes. All right.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that council approve ordinance number 1303, Series 2022, amending the City of Cortez Land Use Code, Section 305, user regulations regarding dwelling, accessory unit, ADU on second and final reading.
Second.
All right, motion made by Yazzie and seconded by Dobry.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Kiefhoffer,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Spruill,
Aye.
DeHaven,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right. Okay, moving on the agenda, number 6, unfinished business, we have none, so we'll move on to 7, new business. 7A is our bid results and lease for 4 refuse trucks, presented by Brian Peckins, our Director of Public Works.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, as you mentioned, we're here to discuss the bid results and the lease of 4 new refuse trucks. As most of you know, we've been working on upgrading our refuse and recycling program for the last 6 months. We've changed leadership. Colby has done a great job for us. We've added a lot of new personnel. We've changed the culture. We've upgraded the equipment. We've optimized the routes. But really, the last piece of the puzzle are the trucks. And with that, I'll go ahead and get started. The staff is presenting bid results and is requesting council approval to lease new refuse trucks that better meet the needs of the department. The city's refuse and recycling fleet has been saddled with excessively high maintenance costs and high downtime brought on by poor reliability issues. 4 of our trucks within the refuse fleet have the Max Force engines, and those engines are known to have reliability issues within the trucking industry. In addition, they are undersized in performance and legal carrying capacity in relation to the workload that we require of them. This means that the current units have always been operated at maximum capacity, which further contributes to maintenance issues and downtime. Just as a note, over the last couple of years, we've spent approximately $140,000 on just 4 trucks, which, you can almost buy a new truck for that. So really, the maintenance costs have really been high on some of our worst vehicles. To aggravate the circumstance, we experienced a serious engine problem with one of the units, resulting in it being sidelined until diagnosis and repair can occur. After analyzing costs and issues with the present refuse fleet, the Public Works staff reached out for quotes from interested and prospective bidders for larger units with known reliable drivetrains that meet industry best practices. Due to supply chain issues and the urgency to address ongoing fleet issues and a possible lapse in service, staff researched upgrading the fleet through Sourcewell Cooperative Bid Agent that the city subscribes to, which satisfies the competitive bidding requirements that are employed by the city of Cortez. I think you've got the chart in front of you, but the staff recommends awarding the bid to McNeilis through Sourcewell at $280,682 each for 3 25-yard rear load units and 1 30-yard side load unit to Coyce Brothers at $340,142.50. The monies have been budgeted in the 2023 Refuse Enterprise Fund, and placeholder lease-to-own agreements have been secured through Kansas State Bank. So basically, we're requesting your approval, subject to any questions. And I've got my experts here if I can't answer them.
Brian, I have a question. On these lease-to-own agreements, how long?
5 years.
5 years? And will the trucks still be in good working order, hopefully, by then?
They should be, and eventually we plan to get on some sort of a rotational program where, like, every year or every 2 years, we'll be adding a new vehicle to the fleet. So we won't be in the situation now where we've got a lot of, poor vehicles.
Okay, thank you.
Brian, how common is it for municipalities to lease trucks such as this?
I think it's fairly common. I'll defer to.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more common, especially as the especially as the supply chain issues and things of that nature kind of raise their issues.
Will there be any significant amount of training that the current staff would have to do? Are these trucks significantly different than what they're used to?
Well, I'll start off and then I'll turn it over to Colby, but 3 of them are the standard units, and then one we're going to, it's kind of as a pilot project, we're going to use a side loader, which will be, that will require training and that sort of thing. I don't know, Colby, if you want to add to that.
Sure thing. So 3 of the units are 25-yard. Currently, we employ 20-yard units. So these are going to be larger units, and then that'll kind of dictate, how or what our needs will be in the future. The one unit, the 30-yard unit side load, 2 of our staff have already been trained on them. They're already familiar with those units, but there will be some additional training coming on board as soon as that comes around and pilot routes are finished.
My question is, how are we affording this?
It's in our budget. We've got, I think it's $225,000 per year over the lease period that's built into our budget.
Okay, so we're not paying, this is per year?
Yes,
230.
230.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to see that they're gonna meet our requirements, because I've heard for years, even before being on council, that they were not meeting our needs, so, thank you. Will this affect our trash fees?
They are, our trash fees for next year are going up, and this is part of, that was rolled into that.
Do you know when we'll get the trucks?
That's a good question. Probably at the earliest in the summer, maybe later in the year.
Yeah, so the trucks, if we secure the order now, we're looking earliest mid-2023 to end 2023. Even before the supply chain issues that we've been facing right now, our build time was about 250 days before we took delivery.
So the five-year lease to own agreement, would that begin once we receive them? Okay, thank you.
Are we gonna make it until we get the trucks?
Yes, I do believe we will. We've got a very good fleet care system. Everything's been upgraded about as much as it can be. The crews have got some great training. We're doing the best we can. I think that we'll make it.
Okay. I just want to express, we ask for the public's patience in case anything does happen until we get new trucks.
Thank you.
Do you know when the last time we had a refuse increase? How long has it been?
I don't know. Do you know, Colby?
So our refuse increases, and I'm speaking to past, and I don't really necessarily have the authority on that, but right around every 2 years to year, we would see a percentage increase. This increase is going to look at basic services, so they're going to identify 2 different services and just keep those below what our area local market average is, so it's not going to raise rates above what is current.
So we had a increase last year, it increased last year?
Do not know if we've had a raise increase last year or if it was the year before. I'm thinking it was prior year.
Okay.
All right, any more discussion, or do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to award the bid to McNeilis through Sourcewell at $280,682, each for 3 25-yard rear loading units for a total of $842,046, and 1 30-yard side load unit to Coyce Brothers at $340,142.50. Both companies have met city specification requirements or quotes and have available chassis and body work. Bodies required to meet the schedule. The monies have been budgeted in the 2023 Refuse Enterprise Fund, and placeholder lease to own agreements have been secured through Kansas State Bank.
Second.
Before we start the vote, I just want to make sure, doing the 2 different ones, that's not going to make it complicated? Because we're not going with just one company?
No, it's not going to be ordered.
Okay, all right. Motion made by Kiefhoffer, seconded by DeHaven.
Dobry,
Aye.
Kiefhoffer,
Aye.
DeHaven,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Spruill,
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, well, moving on to on the agenda, we have no draft resolutions or ordinances. Do we have a city attorney?
We have one more item.
Oh, I'm already skipping, sorry, I'm skipping the most important thing on the agenda. Possible cancellation of our city council meeting scheduled for Tuesday, December 27th. Linda?
Good evening, council. Yes, traditionally, for many years, the city has canceled the second meeting in December due to the holidays. So staff has that before you tonight for your consideration to cancel the December 27th, 2022 council meeting.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to, that council approve the cancellation of the council meeting scheduled for Tuesday, December 27th, 2022, due to the holidays.
Second.
Motion made by Yazzie and seconded by Rainey.
Rainey,
Aye.
Spruill,
Aye.
DeHaven,
Aye.
Kefauver,
Aye.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Medina.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to number 9 on the agenda, the city attorney report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to follow up a little bit on Judge Padilla's comments and indicate that we're looking at a few code changes that will help her implement some of the new ideas that she's got, or certainly clarify enforcement of some of these statutes. And part of the problem is the city has adopted the 2003 Model Traffic Code, which is not uncommon. A lot of, you know, I think they adopt a new one statewide about every 10 years, I think, but it's not uncommon to keep an older version. But what a lot of jurisdictions do is make exceptions to certain provisions in the Model Traffic Code to kind of tailor it to the specific jurisdictional requirements. And I think that may be where we might want to go on things such as the handicap parking fines and that sort of thing. But I just wanted to let you know that we are probably going to, here in maybe into January and February, come before you with some code changes, both with respect to the traffic code and some of the criminal penalties, and also with respect to I think some land use code provisions that are somewhat conflicting and difficult to interpret, both for staff and for the public, and so I think it won't necessarily be major policy changes, but more of cleaning up the code to make it more user-friendly. So you can probably expect to see some of that coming here in the next couple months. And that's all I had.
Great, thank you. Any questions for him, or? Okay, no city manager's report tonight. We'll move on to city council committee reports. There was no workshop tonight, so I'm going to skip that and let my fellow council members go through their board reports. We'll start with Dennis.
Nothing to report on the golf course.
Great.
Madam Mayor, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board met last Friday morning. Some of the things that we talked about, we actually had some pretty sad news. Rosa has resigned her position and is, good for her, she's going to be teaching as a long-term sub at Kemper Elementary with the potential of being a teacher next year. So good for Rosa, sad for us. We also discussed having a limit on the amount of time that we meet as a group, because sometimes our meetings can go at least 2 hours, like last Friday, and so we're trying to get those tightened up a little bit to maybe an hour and a half or something along those lines. We heard reports from Creighton about all the various divisions, and then more specifically, we heard from, I think, I don't have my notes with me, it's Ryan from the golf course Maintenance Division. And things look really great. We've had some really, and I'm sure Dennis could speak to this as well, some really positive comments from the community, and things that people are saying are things like the golf courses never look so good, the grass is fantastic, and things like that. So really great report out from him as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Robert?
No, I don't have any report from Historic Preservation.
Okay. Lydia?
Last week, I was able to attend the library board meeting. We went over the events that took place in celebration for Halloween, and they were a big success. Another update is that they're excited that the adult program position is now going full-time. We also discussed the possibility of looking into switching the library system so that it cooperates more for the public's needs and cooperates with the rest of the county. And Isabella is going to follow up to see if we could get some demos from different systems. In addition, we brought up revamping the Friends of the Library and came up with some strategies to potentially recruit members to start reviving that program. And then in addition, I attended the Mesa Verde Country meeting. Which I'm like, wait, was that between this and the?
I think it was last week, too.
Okay. Yeah, Matt was there too. And we mostly just went over their budget for next year. Yeah.
All right, Arlena?
I have no board reports, but I would like to share about an upcoming event that is happening on December 8th. That is put on by the Montezuma Leadership Network. It is in collaboration with the Leadership Montezuma and the networking committees. This event is an ugly sweater party. It'll be over at Wild Edge. And part of it is fun, and part of it is also recruitment for boards that need members. So if anybody is on a board that's missing people, this is a really great opportunity to get your name out there and meet with folks that are interested in serving in the community. So I invite you all to attend, invite you all to let your networks know, and I'm sure it'll be a hopping event.
Can I just add on to that really quick and just say that if you were a previous Leadership Montezuma participant, we certainly would like for you to attend and, like Arlena was saying, connect with some of the people in the community that are new or looking for new opportunities to volunteer.
Awesome. David?
Yes, the Cortez Public Arts Advisory Committee met November the 7th, and we're working on several ideas for building rapport with the local businesses in the downtown business district for more involvement.
Great. All right. I don't know if I shared this at the last meeting, but we had SWO's kids from the Southwest Open School come to City Hall, and thank you, Dennis, for joining me in that. We met with the students and shared with them, you know, the structure of City Council and what it's like to be a council member, and then they asked us questions. It was really fun. The kids were really engaged, and they got to come and sit in our seats and see what it was like from our perspective, and gave us a nice thank you letter. And then that was 3 weeks ago. And then last week we had the English as a second language students from the Adult Learning Center come and learn about City Council and how they can participate in local government. And thank you again, Dennis, and was it David who joined? So we got to meet that part of our community. So it's nice to see the community engaged, so it's really fun to kind of share our story with them and hear from them. I'm trying to think if I have anything else to share. I think that's all I have to share. Okay, so, all right. So then other items of business, we have no executive session. We have our last public comment public comment section. Do we have anyone here making public comment? No? Okay. All right, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion made by Dobry and seconded by Yazzie.
Spruill,
Aye.
Yazzie,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Kiefhoffer,
Aye.
DeHaven,
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, well, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight, and hope you have a good holiday week. And shop locally.